Hey everybody, Quantum here, and we are finally going to be reviewing the cards coming out for Shimmering Skies. We're starting with Amber, so let's not waste any time and jump straight in. Of course, the other ink colors will be coming soon. We're going to go over every card. I'm not going to spend too much time on cards that I don't think are meta relevant for constructed play, but we are going to be looking into the Shimmering Skies meta and trying to see what cards might be worth playing and what cards might be worth value later on. Starting off, we have Coda, Talkative Cub. So this card, 2 cost inkable, 2/1 body, quest for 2. During your opponent's turns, you can't lose lore. Not really a relevant ability, you know, as reflected by the pre-order price, it's already very cheap. I think maybe if this card goes to 25 cents, you know, maybe like 50 cents for the foil, you can look at picking up a playset for the future. But lore drain strategies aren't really a thing in Lorcana right now. And if side decks ever come to the game, this card might be something you want to side deck if a lore drain strategy eventually becomes a thing. A 2 cost inkable quest for 2 body is also half decent for an aggro strategy, but I just think there are better value cards on 2 you would play anyways right now. So yeah, just not really too relevant at this moment in time, but not a bad card to pick up if it's super cheap. Next up, we've got Nala, a 1 cost inkable 0/4 body, that quest for 1. So not really relevant at all. Not sure why the foil one is showing so expensive. This card should definitely be like 25 cents. What I will say is there is potential for Nala to get a good shift target in the future. Even though I don't know, even if it does, I don't know if you'd even play this as one of the potential shift targets, just because, you know, it doesn't really do anything. The 4 willpower, I guess, is nice. Like it can proc a Rapunzel or something like that, but it doesn't do anything to your opponent's stuff if they challenge into it. So it's basically a location, right? But you have to keep questing with it. So next up, we got Prince Naveen. So a lot to consider here. This was the card that was really hyped up at the start of the set. Very powerful card. Obviously, the big thing with this is if you have nothing on board, if your opponent is wiping your board when you play like your Aerial, Singer 5 on 3, etc., you can just drop Naveen and have an instant value in terms of Singer 6 on board and well, not hard cast, but play your whole new world for free on turn 4 potentially, which is very, very strong because it gives you a developed threat, even if your opponent's been spending resources to out your threats as you've been playing them, and then you get instant value right away. Of course, this can come down and sing other things too. There are good targets in Emerald, like the new You're Welcome, the You Don't Talk About Bruno, Mother Knows Best even, and obviously Steel, there are Zeus's, Whole New Worlds, Grab Your Swords, and as the future, you know, brings out more songs in different sets, this card will likely continue to have value. A 4 cost uninkable, you know, uninkability hurts it, but it is a 3/3 body, so it's not the worst. It does quest for 2, which is also really good. And then the ability, you know, having a Singer 6 on board after the fact that you play a song that's 6 or less for free, just is an overall strong card. I'll probably look at picking up some of these if I can get them for around 20 to 25. I don't anticipate it going lower than that. The issue with this card is that its most applicable use is in Amber Steel Song, and Amber Steel Song already plays something like close to 20 uninkables, and now you're just introducing more uninkables into the deck. You know, but this card is very powerful, so I think without a doubt it will see play. It's probably the most immediate impact, like meta relevant card in the set in terms of like high value cards. Like there are probably, in my opinion, there are like commons and stuff that are maybe more impactful, but this card is probably the best legendary, at least on the surface right now, in the set. So he might be overhyped and he might be overpriced, but like I said, if I end up paying 20 bucks each, even if he drops like 15, I don't think it's that bad of a value, and he could potentially go up to like 40 or 50, right? Probably not, because I don't think he does the same thing as like what Diablo and Beast Tragic Hero did for, you know, their ink colors respectively when they came out and why they demanded such a high price, but we never know. We'll have to wait and see how the meta develops. Rut, nothing relevant here. Common, 4 cost inkable 3/4 that has support and quest for 1. Kenai, not anything relevant here. A 1/4 for 2. An okay stat line, because again, anytime I see 4 willpower, I instantly think 3 damage on it, Rapunzel it, draw 3. But while this character is exerted, your character named Coda can't be challenged. Not really too relevant. I mean, yes, it protects this, but no one's playing that in constructed really. Vanellope is your vanilla 1 cost inkable 2/2 body that quests for 1. Probably worth picking up a playset if they end up going to like 25 to 50 cents each. I'll probably look at picking them up if I can get them for like 2 bucks for a playset, simply because if this card does get future good shift targets, similar to what we've seen with like Stitch and the Queen and whatnot, Kita, etc. in Amber, this one is something that you'll want to have probably. I don't think the shift in this set is very good, but you know, we can evaluate that when we get to it. Took, or Tuck, probably Took, right? I don't know what this is from. 4-cost inkable, 4/4 body, vanilla, quest for 1, not really relevant. Okay, Lilo, 2-cost inkable, 1/3 with support. It has the Lilo name, which might get a good shift target in the future because, you know, Lilo and Stitch is a, you know, Lilo is a main character in the movie. However, the support ability just continues to be extremely underwhelming. I can explain why, but probably not in this video, just to save time. I think that Ravensburger needs to have support on cards as a secondary ability, similar to what they did with the Sapphire Chicha, where you have a primary ability on a card that you're playing it for, and then you just happen to have support on that character as well. Just because, you know, we haven't really seen support be utilized at all, right, in competitive play. Not that I can remember, at least. So if Ravensburger does want to make this ability more relevant, I think they do need to maybe think about it being a secondary ability. We got another Vanellope here, a 2-cost inkable 2/2 body, so similar to the 1-cost inkable 2/2, but this one has an ability. Whenever you play this, or sorry, whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character gets -1 until the start of your next turn. Potentially a strong card, but just because it has underwhelming stats, and it has to quest for its ability, it makes it kind of weak. Even if you do get a really good shift target in the future, you might not even play this one. It would have been nice if it was a 2/3 at least, but even then, that's not really doing it too many favors. You know, I mean, I'd rather just bank on getting a queen shift at this point, right? So it's still just a stronger thing. So probably more of a, I shouldn't even say a draft card, because giving -1 strength, you know, if you're going to challenge, I guess. But why do we really care about reducing strength? It's to proc things like Brawl, Madame Medusa, things like that. Fix-It Felix Jr., 3-cost, inkable 2/4 with bodyguard. At this point in the game, I think we need to power creep past Hercules. This should have been a 3/4 body to be relevant. But, you know, like I said, doing that would immediately power creep kind of the bodyguard like bar that they've set. The only thing that really did that was Simba and Kita being, you know, 2-cost inkables for 2/3. So they had the extra point of toughness for having an ability as well as a 2 stat line on the strength at least. So yeah, I think if this was a 3/4, it would potentially be pretty good. But because it is a 2/4, it doesn't even trade out with a Mim Fox, which is why it is bad, in my opinion. Next up, we have another Singer 5 for 3, similar to Gaston and Ariel. This one is Gazelle Popstar, but it's also a 2/3. So unlike Gaston, which is a 3/3, it's more of an Ariel stat line in 2/3. However, it does not have an Ariel ability to scry for a song. Instead, you get an extra lore when you quest. So, I mean, if you're somehow valuing a Singer that's also more of an aggro threat, I guess this card might be for you. But if you're playing an aggro deck, you're probably not caring about songs too much. Maybe if like Amber Steel aggro, which is already kind of what Amber Steel Song is, right? Like the one in the finals in Bologna was basically an aggro version of Amber Steel Song. Maybe this card sees play in that, but I would anticipate that Gaston is still better for the name of Gaston, you know, having better shift targets in the future. And also just having that extra point of strength to help it trade out into like a Mim Fox or something. So I don't know, we'll see. Like you know, if I'm playing another Singer 5, I don't want the same stat line as Ariel, kind of thing, right? And Ariel's ability is obviously very, very strong. Next up, we've got another Fix-It Felix Jr., Nice Land Steward. This one is a shift 3, 4/5 body, 5 inkable, but it does shift for 3. And a quest for 1 has a very nice ability that says your locations get +2 willpower. And this could be very relevant in a lot of situations, especially protecting a lot of the 6 willpower locations from Maui is basically what we have to consider there. This does have a 2-cost card to shift onto, so you don't want to shift this on the bodyguard one that also costs 3, because mainly you don't want to play that bodyguard in the first place probably, but also you don't want to like turn 3 play the bodyguard, then turn 4 shift this, then you just lose out on tempo, right? You'd rather play a 4-cost card or multiple interactions in a turn if you can. So I just think that in a very dedicated location deck, this could see play, but it depends on how the meta shapes up. If there's a lot of Maui and Rush cards in the meta, then this card potentially sees play to protect locations a little bit more, because locations could also be like a tempo swinger, right? Like if your opponent wastes a turn putting damage on a location and does not out it, you get value there, right? Because they've exerted their characters, they've thrown it into a location, they didn't out the location, they have to do it over 2 turns, and that's where, you know, you can definitely see some value out of a card like this. Kristoff, I'm just going to say, is not really too relevant right now. I think just Chernobog is better because there's no deck that plays more songs than characters. And, you know, the bodyguard is nice, but a 3/7 body, you're most likely playing this for 5, 6, 7 if you see it. And if you see it very late in the game, you'd rather just see Chernobog anyways. So, you know, it's neither here nor there. I just don't think it's going to be very good right now. Maribel is the legendary, one of the legendaries, in addition to the Naveen in the Amber for Shimmering Skies. A 5-cost inkable 5/5 body is a decent stat line that can also quest for 5, which is monstrous. But you can't play this character unless you have 5 or more characters in play, which is a pretty big limitation. There are a lot of potential combos you can do with this, right? Like the new Camillo Madrigal can like target this, gain 5 lore right away, and then bounces back to hand to protect it. You can Lucky Dime this, obviously, but can you even play it? Because you need 5 characters in play. So for that reason, I don't think this card, I don't know why it's going for so much. At least on the surface, I can't see anything where it's going to be too relevant. Like if you're playing out characters and you're not questing with them to protect them, you're just losing the lore you would gain off of this anyways. So I just don't see why it's relevant. And plus, this has to come down and survive for a turn to quest, right? And this can get Zeused, it can get Ice Blocked down, removed, etc. So just a card that I think is underwhelming. But I am happy to see that. Like, I actually don't think this card is, like, terrible, and I'm actually happy they made a card like this, and I'm even more happy they made this the Store Set Championship prize, I believe, and they're expanding it to top 8, not just top 4 who get the prize card, because they need to make the Store Set Championships less sweaty, because people are traveling all over the place, ruining the local experience for other people. Like, I haven't really been to any, but that's what people are telling me, and they just need to cool down on that stuff, and so I think focusing the Store Set Championship card on more like main characters that may not be like super meta relevant is actually a really good idea. So I actually want to give props to Ravensburger for doing that, and hopefully if you're somebody who are experiencing that at your Store Set Championships, hopefully at your local meta it'll be a little bit more casual and a little bit more fun to participate in. Next up, we got Minnie Mouse. So when I saw this card, I was like, could they have printed this with the potential to have you put the character to hand? Because a 5-cost inkable 4/4 body is decent stats to quest for 2. Shift 4 is like not great because I don't want to waste a Minnie Mouse when I could just pay the extra ink and play this out. But you have to shift it in order to get the ability that says you can search your deck for a character card, shuffle your deck, reveal the card to your opponent, shuffle your deck, and then put that character on top. It would have definitely had a lot more relevance if you were able to bring that card to your hand, because it's not like the Merlin, right? It's not any card, it's a character card. So if you shift this, you're using 4 ink to shift. Whatever character you bring to hand, you're likely not going to be able to play it right away. But given that Amber is an aggro color, you search for like a Daisy Duck, you play that. Now you have like Daisy plus Minnie Mouse. That's 4 questing power on board next turn. Maybe it would have been too strong. But I think to make this card more meta relevant, it could have gone to hand, but I'm not necessarily unhappy that it's to the top of the deck. But because you have to shift it to get the ability, you have to waste a Minnie Mouse. The shift like efficiency isn't the greatest. I don't think this card really sees too much play at all, really. Minnie Mouse is a popular character, obviously. It's one of the mainstays of Disney, so there will likely be a lot of potential shift targets. It's just a matter of, are there good enough ones, and is this ability too slow? Because you're setting up for a character draw on the next turn. Like I said, if you really were searching for an impactful character, like getting it to your hand means that you're likely not playing it that same turn, right? Because you paid for it to shift this in the first place. But not necessarily unhappy with the card design, and I think they're probably right in making it the way that they did, because this would be probably a way more expensive card if they made it so that you can bring it to your hand. Probably the most expensive super in the set, at least right now, is going to be Daisy Duck. A lot of people are high up on this card, hence the expensive pre-order prices. I don't think this card is worth that in the long run. It's a very good card, and it will be played in aggro strategies, but I think similar to what happened with Emerald Steel in set 4, people adapt, and they will definitely adapt to the aggro strategies. Yes, this Daisy Duck will get you some immediate value right away, because almost nothing can deal with it in the first couple of turns, but people will adapt if this card, or if this aggro strategy becomes super prevalent, and aggro is very easy to shut down. Right, my friend and I, when we posted our Amber Sapphire aggro ramp deck, we tried to solve that problem by giving aggro some more top end, so that you're not stuck in like, well, all my characters are small, they die to everything if I let the game go on too long. In the Sapphire version of the ramp deck that is also aggro, you at least have some top end to survive some of the bigger threats that also might come down, and that you don't have to worry about everything getting removed by any form of steel removal, for example, once you get to the midpoint in the game. But yeah, long term, I think this card maybe end up landing around where Flynn Rider was, maybe even a little bit less, because again, it's really only applicable in aggro strategies. But to be fair, Amber Steel's Song, which gets the Naveen as well, would play this over the Golden Harp, I think. Golden Harp is inkable, this is not, and like I said, Amber Steel's Song is already on a lot of uninkables, so it's hard to say how that would really flesh itself out. But yeah, I don't think like the Amber Amethyst aggro or even the Amber Sapphire aggro is going to be that prevalent of a threat, just because I think there are just enough things in the metagame that will check aggro, and aggro is really dependent upon playing like a very perfect kind of curve in order to get its strategy off, right? Because if you don't get enough lore quick enough, your deck just loses, right? And that's kind of always been the downfall of aggro. Next up, we've got a Fix-It Felix Jr., a 2-cost inkable 1/3, that if you play this character while you have a location, you can draw a card. So, you know, when you think about an ideal shift line, you like go Neverland turn 1, which is the 1-cost inkable location, has 4 willpower in Amber. Turn 2, you drop this, you draw a card. Turn 3, you shift the Fix-It Felix onto this one on 3. That way your Neverland is now 6 toughness, and basically they need a Maui to out it. And in the first couple of turns, you're going to generate a couple of free lore off of both the Felix that you shift, which quests for 1 and is a 4/5 body, and your location that is now a 6 willpower location that's gaining you a lore every turn. So you're going to get a couple of free lore before it's really answered, before it's challenged into and removed, which is nice. Next up, we have this Moana. So this is going for 19 cents, which is kind of crazy. This is a card I think is kind of being overlooked right now. This is one of the cards that I ended up pre-ordering in foil because it was so cheap. And you know, even if it ends up dropping to like less than $1, it's like I lose a couple cents on pre-ordering the foil copy. Whereas if this card ends up being meta relevant and it ends up being worth like $4 or $5 in foil, like I come out like, you know, getting the card for 20% of what it's actually going for on the market rate after the meta settles. So there are certain things you can look for value. Like if this is going for 20 cents, it's a no-brainer to pick up 4 copies of it just to have it if you're ever thinking about playing an aggro strategy, because it costs you less than $1. But a 3-cost uninkable hurts, but a 3/4 stat line is actually pretty good, and it quests for 2. In testing, when I was playing this against my friend who was on Amethyst and Steel, so a lot of easy removal for, you know, especially aggro characters, like you have Mim Fox, you have, you know, other Mim cards like Goats or you know, Merlin Goats that are also overstated to out cards like this. But what's nice is this card will trade with every single one of those things. Similar to how Mim Fox is overstated for its cost, this card is also overstated for its cost. Mim Fox is inkable, this is not. Mim Fox can rush, but this thing quests for 2. So in an aggro strategy, this thing seems to have a lot of value. I played this in my Amber Ruby Princess deck with the new item, Queen Sensor Core, and it really did overperform for me, despite me kind of being down on the card because I drew three of them in my in my first couple of turns, and it just kind of bricked my hand. But when I did end up having to play it out, it was really strong. Like it's hard to deal with, similar to Daisy Duck. But the difference is with this card, your opponent challenging into this, like they'll lose whatever they challenge into this with, most likely, right? Because the 3 strength translates back over to basically everything in the first couple of turns that they might play in order to try to out this. So I do think this card is one of the ones right now that are undervalued. Can be played into multiple different decks. And Moana is a main character in Disney. Does she get a very powerful shift in the future? This card could see more play. So just want to put that out there. Anyways, next up we've got one of the Enchanteds. Looks really nice. Kind of reminds me of like a really cartoony drawing. I don't know. But yeah, Vanellope, this is the shift target we got for this set. So similar to what we had with Ursula in Ursula's Return, being the 2/4 body. I think this one is probably worse, because the only application I see this in is Emerald Amber for the Under the Sea. But it's a very slow ability. Whenever you play another princess character, all opposing characters get -1 strength. So obviously, you know, a shift 2, you have the 1-cost Vanellope, the vanilla, right, which I was talking about earlier, saying like if we get additional good shift targets, that card would be a good 1-cost 2/2 to pick up in foil. It's similar to the Queen and Stitch and whatnot. This card, if it was a 5-cost shift 2, I think it would be better, because then it could sing 5-cost songs. I don't think this does enough to displace the Queen, being, you know, the other one vanilla that can shift on 2. What I would say is this could be a card that complements the Queen. I don't see it. I don't see you playing 4 Queen 1-drops, 4 Vanellope 1-drops, and then 4 of this Vanellope and 4 of the Queen shift target, like shift lines. Again, if this was a 5-cost card that could sing 5-cost songs, maybe you put all your eggs into that basket to shift on 2, because shift 2 Queen is extremely powerful. But obviously the Shift Queen also has a very powerful ability, whereas this one is a little bit more underwhelming because it's slower to proc the ability and the ability is less relevant. Like, what are you really going to do here? Like, give -1 to the whole board. You have to play a princess, so you use ink to play something in order to proc the -1. And now you can't really follow that up with like anything significant in terms of board wipes. Like, you can sing together and Under the Sea, but again, you'd rather just play Kita to give -3, right? So really limited in my opinion. I think this card ends up being worth like $1 or less in foil long term. Again, I could be really wrong. Let me know in the comment section below if I'm really missing the mark on some of these things. But I just don't see this displacing what we already have in Amber. This is a card that I actually didn't think was going to be too relevant, and to my surprise, the pre-orders on this thing sold out. One of my favorite, I'm sure a lot of people's favorite characters, the start of Robin Hood when Alan Dale sings that song, so iconic. But a 2/3 body inkable 4-cost character that quests for 2 is Flute on a body, right? So whenever you play a song, you gain a lore. You can just have it sit there. It does not have ward, so it can be like Zeus, it can be brawled, etc., which makes it inherently weaker, which is why I thought it wasn't going to be too good. But I guess in hindsight, you know, you play this on 4. If it does survive, like maybe you sing a song the turn you play this, right? And you gain a lore there, and then you know, out an opponent's character because you sing a steel song or something. And then next turn, if this survives, you quest for 2, and then you play another song. You've gained 4 lore off of this one interaction of this card, right? I mean, it does have to survive, but it's not too much of a big ask to put this into Amber Steel Song over Flutes. Plus, it has the huge benefit of being inkable. And it, you know, it can be it's a character, so it could potentially challenge into stuff too, right? So, you know, I think that I really overlooked this card in the beginning. I probably should have picked up foil copies when, I mean, I don't know, because it was selling for like what, $2 in foil, which is probably a little overpriced. But who knows? It might be one of those uncommons that ends up being worth $4 or $5 in foil, right? Long term. So again, it just depends on how you want to build your Steel Song deck. It is nice to have another 4-cost character other than Rapunzel that you want to play. You know, because it's just another thing that can sing Zeus as well, I guess. But you'd rather just sing Zeus with Ursula, Vanessa anyways on 2, or the 2-cost cards. So, you know, is the ability warranted enough to play it in the deck? Hard to say. But, you know, doesn't change the fact that it's an amazing character and an amazing artwork, by the way. So there's that to consider. All right, we're almost done here. Moving on to, where are we actually? Holy, did I lose? Oh, here we go. Wreck-It Ralph. This is a card I think sees play in Mufasa. When you play this character, return a character from your discard to your hand, and if it's a princess, you gain 2 lore. So when you play Mufasa and you were playing Hades in Mufasa, you'd basically only play Hades to recur Rapunzel. I mean, I know you'd recur Mufasas and stuff too, technically, but like, you need the card drop. And so this card being hit off of a Mufasa or just raw playing this out and returning a Rapunzel is very, very strong. Because you have a huge body that quests for 2. It is uninkable, yes, but you gain 2 lore if you do recur a Rapunzel. I think this card is good value. If you play Mufasa, I think Mufasa plays this. So I will say that. Long term, hard to say what the price is. I would probably pick up a couple of foils if I can get them for like $2 each. I don't think that's too outrageous. I do think not a lot of people will see the value in this right away. And, you know, Mufasa may not be a super popular deck. And if it isn't, this card might be worth picking up because, like I said, it is pretty strong. Recursion is extremely strong. Maid Marian, an uncommon 6-cost inkable 4/5 uncommon quest for 2. When you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -5 strength until the start of your next turn. So the rare Scar in Sapphire kind of does something like this. Interesting card. You know, 6-cost inkable, eh? -5 is really nice. Every time I see this stuff, I'm just thinking like Under the Sea, right? So again, the whole point is you already have the singers on board to sing the Under the Sea, and you're playing this or you're playing the Kita to give, again, just like, yeah, I'd rather just play Kita, right? Like Kita -3 even outs the Tamatoa. It reduces it from 5 to 2. Then the Under the Sea works on the Tamatoa. So yeah, I guess it really depends on what's matter relevant, but I don't think this sees play even in the Amber Emerald deck. Because again, you have Queen too. Queen is -4 swing, so hard to say, unfortunately. Maid Marian, awesome card, right, from Robin Hood again, so would love to see these cards be played. You got Sven, Reindeer Steed, 3/3 for 4, quest for 2. When you play this character, you may ready a chosen character. They can't quest or challenge for the rest of the turn. So kind of like a LeFou, costing 2 more, better stats, quest for 2. but it can't challenge the character that you ready. So you're basically just readying a character to either protect it from being challenged or to sing a song. So interesting card. Again, does it do enough to displace currently what's being played in Amber and Constructed? I don't think so, but a very interesting card nonetheless. Good to have things that can untap, which is always nice. We got a Minnie Mouse common 1/5, so it gets outed by Sisu, the 3-drop Sisu. 4 cost inkable. Whenever this character quests, remove 2 damage from chosen character. Quest for 2. Not relevant because you actually want damage to stick on your characters so that you can Rapunzel it. Alright, that does it for the characters. We're moving on to the actions. We got our first song here. 4 cost song, Try Everything, uncommon. Remove up to 3 damage from chosen character and ready them. They can't challenge or quest for the rest of the turn. Again, not anything that I see being too relevant. Would be nice if it drew you a card as well, but yeah, unfortunate there. Now you got Healing Touch. Remove up to 4 damage from chosen character and draw a card. Not a song. 3 cost, not really too relevant in my opinion. You got Revive. So this, oh, okay. Who is that? Mother, that's not Mother Gothel. Who is that? I don't know who that is. Yeah, I don't know who this character is. Play a character with cost 5 or less from your discard for free. And it's a 5 cost uninkable action, so not a song. This card was going for, yeah, a decent amount of money. It is an interesting card. The issue with it, like, I think maybe you can tech this in as a 1-of. But, like, if you see this early in the game, like, you are at a huge disadvantage. Like, yeah, like, even early in the game, let's say you get, like, a queen shift line, they out your queen, you're like, Revive, queen. But then you're playing it on turn 5, so it's like, you know, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think, I don't, like, this card should be, like, 50 cents, in my opinion. Like, seeing it late game is, like, potentially super impactful, right? Because once you've already built up that discard pile, again, you're not going to be playing Chernobog with this, obviously. But, like, Revive a Rapunzel, draw 3, it's pretty good, right? Having the utility of your discard pile at your use. We've talked about this before, why Snow White was potentially really good, why Perdita sees play, right? Very, very good. But, again, a 5 cost uninkable card, hard to justify more than a 1-of, and it would only be played in very certain decks. A super rare in Amber, the action song Blast from Your Past, 6 cost uninkable. Name a card, return all character cards with that name from your discard to your hand. So this is a card I think will come good eventually because we have a lot of overlapping names that are very popular. What comes to mind immediately whenever I see Recursion is Rapunzel. But again, depending on what ink pairing you pair this with, like Madam Mims, bring back like 2 foxes, 2 snakes, you know, an elephant, whatever. All cards that are going to see play, very relevant if Amber Amethyst becomes a thing again. It is a song too, so that is nice, but just like Revive, maybe this is just like a 1-of that you hope to see very late in the game where it could potentially be somewhat relevant, and you've already built up your discard. What's interesting is, for those of you that have ever played Yu-Gi-Oh, milling cards from your deck into your grave, or you know, Magic too, milling cards into your graveyard is a very powerful thing. And if we get any kind of like very powerful mill, I know like technically you have what, like Emerald Steel mill, but obviously you're not going to be playing Emerald with, or Amber with that. If Amber ever gets any kind of self milling, or it works very well with like Steel mill because of A Whole New World, a card like this could potentially be very, very useful, because basically you just dump as much of your deck into your discard as possible, and then you use a card like this to just like generate the advantage that, so that you have the cards that you know you need to play. But yeah, right now I don't think it fits into the meta all that well. Like, this card could potentially be absolutely insane, right? Like, Blast from Your Past, you know, get back like 3 Madame Medusas or something, right? Like, and then you just have instant removal every turn for the next 3 turns. Like, it's crazy. And the fact that it's a song, you don't have to spend your ink to play it, right? So there are some interesting utility options with this, but again, similar to Revive, like, there are certain conditions that have to be met, and if you draw this card early, it's absolutely detrimental to you. Next up, Invited to the Ball. Reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Put the revealed character cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck. 2 cost uninkable action. Instant card advantage for something like Mufasa, but I'd rather, yeah, I don't know. I'd rather just play just play characters, right? Is it worth the 2 ink to get +1 on card advantage? I don't think so. So, yeah, I think you just want more efficient draw engines in Mufasa. Alright, next up, Healing Decanter. Remove, okay, so an item, 2 cost inkable item. Tap it to remove 2 damage from chosen character. Not relevant. I'm not even going to click on it. Next up, we have Queen Sensor Core. I think I got a steal on this because I bought 4 of them for like 99 cents each. I do think this card could potentially be worth like $3 or $4 long term as a non-foil. I don't know what the foil ones are going to be worth. I will be looking to pick up foil ones, hopefully for like $5 each at the most, but maybe even cheaper if this card doesn't end up becoming too meta. But it's hard to see. It's hard to see this card not being good. I know I tried it and I kind of did a deck profile around it. I need to play the deck more, but at the start of your turn, if you have a princess or queen character in play, you gain a lore. So it's just like a free spellbook, which is absolutely crazy because it's a 2-cost inkable. Spellbook is a 3-cost uninkable. You have to pay an ink and exert it. That is crazy. I mean, Spellbook you can just do every turn. This card has a condition you have to have a queen or princess on board. So yeah, it's like kind of balanced out that way. But then has a secondary ability, which gets you card advantage. You exert it, pay 2 ink, reveal a top card of your deck, and if it's a princess or queen, you just put it into your hand. Otherwise, you just return that card to the top of your deck. And if you build the deck correctly, which I don't think I did in the first place, like I was 2 out of 3 cards in my deck were all queens or princesses, so I had a 66% chance to hit. This card could potentially just be like really, really insane because if you pair this with like Amber Ruby, you know, Ruby cards can just be removing the board, and then you can just be generating card advantage for 2 ink on top of that, right? So in a grind game, like this card can win you the game. Plus you're gaining lore passively every turn potentially. And if you have multiples of these out, you're getting multiple lore every turn if your princess or queen survives. So it puts your opponent in a very awkward position where they just have to constantly remove your characters. And this is why something like that Moana, in my opinion, was good because like it's hard to remove that. Like your opponent's going to be trading out into it. You're going to be questing with it. They have to throw their characters into it. Otherwise, you're going to get more lore off the sensor core. Like, it works pretty nicely, I think. So, again, need to test it some more, but I really am a fan of that card. So I picked up, like, as soon as I saw it, if I saw it cheap, I was like, I don't care what the price is. Like, if it's under $2, I'm picking them up. Unfortunately, the Amber Chromacon is probably the worst one out of all the Chromacons. Tap it to remove 1 damage from each of your characters, and it costs 2. Not necessarily terrible, but not good compared to the other Chromacon items that we got, unfortunately. I think what I think they could have done here, and I don't know if this would have been too powerful, but if they would have made it like remove up to 1 damage from each of your characters, and if you removed 3 damage counters, so if you had 3 characters on board that were all damaged and it was able to remove 3 damage, you draw a card. I think that would have been amazing. But I mean, not even amazing. It would have been just decent. But yeah, because of that, I don't think this card is very good. And what else do we have to round out the rest of? We're not gonna. I guess we can look at the enchanteds too. I clicked on the other one first. Rapunzel's Tower is really interesting. Unfortunately, it doesn't gain you lore, because if it did, I think it would absolutely replace Tiana's, the Tiana location. I forget what it's called, like Jazz Restaurant or something, which is what Towelman Purple played in his location deck, which is really cool. This card is actually really nice. Characters get +3 while here. Imagine you have the Fix-It Felix on this location. So this location gives Fix-It Felix +3, which makes it an 8 toughness character. And then the Fix-It Felix makes this location a 10 toughness or willpower location. That seems to be really nice. Unfortunately, this card doesn't gain you passive lore, which if it did, I think it would make location decks more relevant. Because I think, like I said earlier, the instant removal for locations that we have now in the new Simba, the Cusco, and the Hideaway spell make this location deck stuff a little less powerful than it probably could have been. And then we have Pride Lance, location version 2, I guess, because we already have a Pride Lance from set 3. A 3-cost inkable Pride Lance, so the other one is a 2-cost uninkable. 8 willpower. And if you have 3 or more characters here, you may banish this location to play a character from your discard for free. So this location is very interesting, and it also gains you passive lore. So I think this is potentially pretty good, because if you pair it with something like Tuk Tuk in Ruby, the Tuk Tuk can move 2 things to this location for free. And then you fulfill 2 out of the 3 conditions. It's also gaining you passive lore. It has good willpower stats to survive a couple of challenges potentially. It does cost 3, which is unfortunate because Tuk Tuk also costs 3. If this cost 2, it would have been a lot better. But then the ability to banish it at any time to play a character from your discard for free is pretty good. But just like Revive and whatever the other song was, I forget what it was. Revive is an action. What was the other song called? Blast from Your Past. You need to build up a discard for this to be relevant. And immediately what comes to mind is, how fast can I revive a Rapunzel and draw 3, right? because that's really what this stuff is good for, the revive stuff. At least right now. I'm sure there's other applications, obviously, but the strongest one to me seems like Revive Rapunzel, draw 3. But yeah, this is a potentially good card. I don't think it's definitely not worth 15 bucks in foil. Similar to what the first Pride lands went to, it was worth like $2 or $3 in foil. I think if you get this for $2 or $3 each, it's potentially a decent pickup if you're planning to play any kind of Ruby Amber location deck. Because again, Jim Hawkins plays this out, moves there for free. Then if you play Tuk Tuk the following turn, you move 2 more characters there for free. You banish it right away. You play a character for free. Like, there are potential lines that, you know, make this very strong. But again, all the location hate in the meta now might not be a valuable strategy. Naveen as a enchanted looks nice. You know, Vanellope as an enchanted looks nice. Revive looks nice. I think the Revive and the Prince Naveen are probably the ones that are worth the most. But ironically enough, I think the Vanellope looks the best. So that's my take on Amber. Hopefully this video wasn't too long, and stay tuned for the other ink colors. Thank you for watching. Quantum's out.